host for the program Coming Home.
We began by meeting at a hotel in the ballroom, and from there we came upon a property that we are currently at today.
And I get on them all the time. We have to change our thinking if we're ever going to walk in the kingdom of God.
Well, hello again and welcome to the Coming Home program. I have two first-time guests on the program today, and I'm going to introduce them. The first one to my left is Rachel Owen, and Rachel is the Executive Director of Informed Choices Medical Clinics in Iowa, correct?
Yes.
Welcome, Rachel. I had the privilege of meeting both Rachel and Susie last November.
Yes.
Isn't that right? And so I've been anxious to have them on the program. As I said, Rachel is the Executive Director for the Informed Choices, started to say Pregnancy Support Center there, didn't I? For the medical clinics that they have in Iowa, and you'll hear about those in a moment, but I also want to introduce Susie, Suzi Steele.
Yes.
And she is the Development Coordinator for the medical clinics that they have in Fort Dodge and Des Moines and Ames and Iowa City and soon to open in Burlington.
Yes. Yes.
I got that right?
Yes.
I did that without looking at my notes.
You did good. Did you get them all? I think you got them all, yep.
You've heard me use the term Pregnancy Support Center, and because what they're doing, it has to do with young women that are facing pregnancy. And so I'm going to ask Rachel to begin just by sharing a little bit about herself and how Informed Choices got started.
Well, I was one of the founding board members and the director of Informed Choice of Iowa, which is the corporation that starts the medical clinics.
Right.
And when my husband and I, it was about 9 years ago, right in there, when we found out the abortion rate in Iowa City, which is literally just our front yard. You know, we look out our front yard, we see the lights of Iowa City. We were really shocked. You know, this is our hometown, and the abortion rate at that time was over 3,000, which was at that time some of the highest per capita in the country for, you know, college community. And so we really felt like we needed to do something.
Rachel, was that 3,000 per year average?
Yes,
Is that what you're
I'm
saying?
sorry,
Okay.
3,000 a year. 3,000 abortions a year were average in Iowa City.
Just in Iowa City.
Yep, just in Iowa City at that time about 9 years ago. And so we just really felt like we had to do something about that. You know, if we're going to be here in Iowa, and we're going to, you know, we really had thought the Lord was going to have us in the mountains somewhere, you know.
Me too.
Discipling kids somewhere, you know, in the mountains. But so we're like, okay, we're in Iowa, let's go climb this mountain. You know, let's go into Iowa City and see what we can do. So we researched and found some people to help with it, some directors that have been there, and we jumped in with both feet, and it took us about 2 years to raise the funds to open our first clinic in Iowa City. We like to tell people that it was the gestation of an elephant. That's just, you know, it just took a long time to get the doors open. When you're first casting this vision and this dream, it takes a little bit to raise the money.
And that was 9 years ago, you said.
We opened about 7 years ago.
7 years ago you opened, okay.
So it took us 2 years to get there, and once we got going and we saw just needs being met and the young women coming in and just really grabbed onto this vision of reducing the rate of abortion in Iowa City by meeting needs through a medical clinic, through that medical model, and just saw how effective it was. And realizing that 50% of the abortions in the state of Iowa are performed on college students, we knew that we needed to be branching out more. So that's what really excited us about branching out across the state of Iowa.
Yes.
So.
And for the viewers' sake, either Susie or yourself, share what you said. You have these young women coming to you. What state of mind are they in usually? What is it that you're helping them deal with emotionally? And of course, the major thing is to help them to make a decision. Correct?
Yes. Yes, you know, a lot of the emotion that they're experiencing is they feel very trapped. You know, a woman makes a decision to have an abortion within the first 24 hours of finding out she's pregnant. And so for us to be able to meet her needs within that 24 hours is huge. You know, and a lot of her needs are maybe glaring to her, but something that we can easily help with.
Yes.
So we could easily, you know, if she's thinking that she has to have this abortion because she doesn't have transportation to get a car seat to the daycare center so that she can finish her last semester of classes, then we're gonna get her a car. Whatever is the obstacle that is causing this.
Sure.
this. Of course, we know from statistics and research that 95% of women who are have had an abortion in their past wish that someone would have given them more information. And so just being able to provide information for these women on what is an abortion, what are the side effects of an abortion, what resources are available out there to meet her needs. And so that's where the medical clinic comes in. We're able to, we have nurses that do all of our consultation.
Yes.
And we have physicians. We're able to show her exactly what is happening inside of her womb with that ultrasound. And that's huge. That now she sees the fetal development and what's going on. And now, Roland, she's fully informed. She has a lot of information, and it's really an incredible process.
So the name Informed Choices.
Absolutely.
That's the name.
Yep, that's where that came
And
from.
well, I'll come back to you in just a moment, Rachel, but I want to ask Suzi, your position, your title is Development Coordinator, and what exactly is that? What is it that you do? Now, Rachel, you're overseeing all of these locations.
Yes.
So Rachel is the executive director over each one of these locations, and each location probably has its own director.
It has its own nurse manager.
Nurse manager, okay.
Yep, has its own nurse manager.
And so with that, Suzi, what is your role with Informed Choices?
Yes. My role is development coordinator, and I get to work with donors, with churches, with church liaisons, which we can explain what that is. I get to work with volunteers, but my main goal is to be able to make connections with people who have a passion or a heart for this kind of ministry and want to be a part of it. And so we want to get our word out to churches. We want to get the word out to individuals that there's so many opportunities to become involved with Informed Choices that, of course, financial is one of them, but there are many other ways through volunteering positions, through even the church liaison position would be to be our connection to that church and be able to be educated about who we are and spread the word at the church and help us in our major events. So we get to work with people one-on-one with that. And, you know, we want to get the word out across the state of Iowa and be able to speak. Rachel's speaking engagements are many, and it is good to be able to also canvass the state with others as well. So we have 2 development assistants for regional areas that help make those connections with churches, And so it's been a privilege to be able to help out in any way I can because I started out volunteering. And because of that, the love for Informed Choices grew, and I was asked to come on staff, and I got that firsthand look at what actually happens inside of those clinics and how the nurses handle that care. So I wanted to be a part of that, and I'm privileged to.
Devote your life to it.
Yes.
There's something I want to say, Rachel, if I may. I want to address the viewing audience because you might maybe have just watched the first 8 minutes of this program so far and said, oh, they're not going to do any teaching or preaching today. I think I'll turn it to another channel. I'm saying don't do that. I would like to ask you a question if you're watching this. Have you ever saved someone's life? I mean, have you ever saved someone's life? Think about that for a moment. What would that feel like? I mean, a heroic act, something that just happened suddenly, and you had to make a very fast decision, and you made it, and you stepped forward, and you did something, and it actually saved someone's life. Because see, that's what this ministry is about. It is about saving the lives of unborn children. And so I'm asking you to stay tuned and watch this, because there's a lot of information going to be given out today. And whether you live in the area of Ames or Fort Dodge or Des Moines or Iowa City or Burlington or any of the towns I may have missed, you heard them say volunteers. You heard Suzi say, I started out as a volunteer. And I don't know where you feel personally about this issue, but can I share with you what I believe God's heart is about it? I believe that God wants his people. And you wouldn't be watching this program if you weren't a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. God wants his people to be involved and to get involved in saving the lives of these unborn children. So please stay tuned for the full entire 1 hour of our program today. And thank you for doing that. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, Rachel.
Well, I just appreciate you asking for support, because that is, we can't do this without the support of the community. And we're really partnering with our with the people who are not only financially getting behind us, but the churches and the community and our volunteers. We're partnering together to create a culture where life is valuable. You know, we truly believe that that if life is held sacred as made in the image of God, and it's valuable, that it can make a difference in our culture. You know, it's interesting, the advent of when abortion became legal in our country. You know, child abuse went up, violence went up, all of these things because of the disrespect for life in general. I think it really makes, when you start off by loving and respecting that life in its least form, it makes a huge difference on the whole culture of a society.
It does.
And you know, I don't know if you've seen the latest research out there. It's just so amazing. They now have filmed the actual conception. So when you have your egg and the sperm goes into the egg, there is a spark of light that takes place in that womb.
That's God.
That is God. And it reminds me of John 1, you know, just that he is the light. And he is, from that spark of light is marking, it's really marking the moment
I have not heard this. Is
that this
incredible.
internal being is now on the presence of this, you know, it's on the scene, you know, that this new person, this new spirit that's going to be there for eternity is now been created in its mother's womb. And so I think, you know, just the beautiful thing of just being able to show women that beautiful life in the womb is so huge. You know, I love to look at, you know, the past and the future and put it all together. And when you look at the year that Roe versus Wade was passed, it was the same year that the technology for ultrasound came on the market.
Oh, really?
And so to me, it's just like God screaming, look what's inside of a mother's womb. Look at the beauty of this. Look what I'm creating. I'm co-creating with this woman, and this life is precious, and it's in my image. And he is so gentle, and he is so kind to us, and he is just quietly speaking to us through this ultrasound. I really believe that. So it's so neat to be able to sit down with these young women and young men. It's really important for us to get everyone in the family in this decision-making process. We use a very strategic tool in our counseling room with our nurses and the young women that come in. It's this incredible tool. It was developed in Canada in an oncology department. And it really is, it's this beautiful sheet of how to make tough decisions. So, and it was developed for end-of-life decisions. And so, you know, the young woman just writes down in their own handwriting her options. You know, what are her options? Abortion, parenting, adoption. And then she rates it on a scale of 1 to 5, what it means to her emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And then she's able to see this on the paper, and then she rates it. And the beautiful thing is that as the nurse is sitting down with her, her needs pop up off the sheet of the paper. And so we're able to see her needs and start meeting her needs right away. And like we talked earlier, a lot of her needs are informational needs. But, you know, then her physical needs come off, but that happens within 15 minutes of her walking in the door. What we have going on at our clinics is we want to be effective and efficient, and especially with our donors' investments. You know, we want to be able to be able to sit down with this young woman in that 24-hour period that we talked about of her making that decision for that abortion, be able to sit down with her and help her to set that fear aside that's driving that decision, and help her be able to see things clearly. So we meet her needs, we go into the ultrasound room, we see that beautiful baby, and then we just rally around her with the community.
Yes.
One thing that is a huge part of what Suzi does, and with our other liaison coordinators, is really has to do with pulling the church in to helping rally around these young women. Because, you know, once we share the gospel with them, and once they have some of their basic needs met, one of the major needs that we've seen over the years is the need for family, is the need for support for long term.
Yes.
And so, you know, about 70% of the girls that come to us, they have that family support. If they just tell their family rallies, because I believe that there's many, many good families in the state of Iowa. But there's that 30% that really need more support long term. And so we work with churches to rally around these young women, to plant them in the church so that they can be mentored by a Titus II woman, by someone who wants to sow into them and love on these girls. And so that is a huge part of what we do. We want to partner with the church both ways. You know, Roland, statistically, it's very heartbreaking to see that women who go into the abortion clinics will write, when they're filling out their form, you know, their faith, right? Over 70% of the women who fill out those forms will tell you that they're Christians. So there is this gap there. So not only do we need to be in the churches talking about life, that life is valuable and sacred, and that, but we also need to be talking about how God's grace and forgiveness, and really rallying the church behind this, because just as many, well, actually statistically it's showing that more women who tell you that they're Christians are having abortions than not.
My goodness.
So
that's amazing. And speaking of the churches, Suzi, this is kind of where your ministry comes in. Your part is to connect these young people with churches, or even to go out and get churches willing to work with the clinics to offer that support, ongoing, long-term support to the family members.
That's right.
As well.
Yes, in the churches, they, if you just educate them about the needs that we have, about what we do, and the need for those young women who just need someone to come alongside them, say positive words about their pregnancy, to support them in that pregnancy. And not only that, but just to show the love and care of Christ to them, welcoming, you know, them into the church and into their homes, and that we can connect people with them who won't let them go, who won't just let them, you know, be off to a side in the shadows, but that they can have that, because we have so many people in the churches who can do that. So we want to come along with the churches and empower them. And then a lot of what we do is networking with the churches, with the young woman. We also let them know, you know, if they want to be a part of a campus ministry, we have a lot of campus ministries that we connect to and let them have information about that. So we just, the most important thing is that she's surrounding herself with a small group of people who are going to champion her throughout that.
I like that term.
Yes.
well, and statistically, just to go along with what Suzi was talking about, is, you know, women say that if one person, no, this is well over 60%. If one person in their life would have said one positive word about their unplanned pregnancy, they would have carried. So one word, Roland, goes a long way. One word, I mean, our words are so powerful. So it's so important to, as we're building this culture of life across the state, just to be speaking those powerful words within our congregations. You know, that not only is life precious and valuable and has this unlimited potential, but that, you know, that we believe in each other, and we believe in the potential of a young mother. You know, I mean, I was born to a young mother, and man, we're best friends, and she's a grandma with the mostest, and you know, we wouldn't trade her for the world. So, or would she trade me for the world?
Yes.
You know, so it's really about building that precious culture, that net, and that's what Informed Choices is about, to bring the information
Bring the information. You know, it's interesting. You said just one positive comment because, like you said, they're in all of a sudden is shock and fear.
Yes.
Of I've got to do something. You know, before anybody finds. I mean, I can't even imagine what's gone through their minds already before they even come in, and their minds are probably pretty well made up. In most cases, and you don't try to persuade them which decision to make. You just give them information. You give them information. But I remember this from when we first met, that these statistics are from Planned Parenthood. Am I correct in saying that?
From the Guttemacher Institute, which is the research arm of Planned Parenthood.
And they say 95% of post-abortive women say they wish they had been given more information.
Yes, yes.
And
90% regret that decision.
Yes.
Exactly.
They regret the decision to have the abortion. And so our statistics run right along with that. So women who come to us who are abortion determined, when they come in, have their needs met, see their baby on the ultrasound, 91% of those young women will choose to carry that child. So we're seeing, you know, similar to that. The other thing is that, you know, there is that 9% that do decide to go and have that abortion, even after being at our clinic, and we love them unconditionally right where they're at, and wrap them up. We have a post-abortion recovery program and support group that we rally around them and love on them, especially those abortions that are coerced. You know, a lot of abortions, again, about 60% of abortions are coerced by loved ones. We've recently just had a situation where a young woman was coerced into that, and you know, we've been able to help her get out of that situation, because that's abusive. It is abusive. And actually, in our country, a lot of people don't realize this, but Roe versus Wade not only protects the woman's choice to have that abortion, but it protects her choice to carry that pregnancy. That it is actually premeditated manslaughter if you coerce a woman against her will to have that abortion.
Really?
Yes. Yes, and it is something that could be, you know, charges could be filed and those kinds of things, but that is really overlooked in our country because we're so pro-abortion that we're not looking at the basis that this woman doesn't want to have this, but her family is forcing her into that. And on that note, you know, one thing that we work really hard is to get her family to come into the clinic. You know, we want to see those new young fathers, and then who are very scared and frightened, just as she is, and also her parents, her father, anyone who is pressuring her to abort. We want to see them come into the clinic and see that baby, and it is incredible, Roland. Once a young person is in there, she sees her baby and she brings her family in, especially if it's the man that's coercing her. If that man is coercing her to abort, it's incredible. They come in there and they see that baby on the ultrasound, and 99% of the time they choose to support her in carrying that child, because men are visual. You know, they really are. They need to see this whole thing. And I always tell young women, you know, your dad is understandably upset with you right now, but you just wait till after you have that baby and place that baby in his arms, and he's going to be sold out.
Awesome. You know, when you
Sold
said,
out.
did you say, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say 50% of those that come in say that they are Christians? Okay.
So this is a Guttemacher Institute statistic,
Okay.
and so this comes from when a woman goes in and has an abortion.
Right.
So she's waiting in the waiting room, filling out her information, and it asks her what her faith is, and so 70%, it's actually over 70% will tell you that they're Christian.
Right.
So
I'm thinking about this. I don't want to take you off course.
No,
of
you're
what
fine.
You want to cover,
You're
but
fine.
I'm thinking about this.
This
The
is great.
pressure that would be facing that young woman is that if she, as a Christian, has had a Christian raising, raised in church, has a Christian background, is that the fear of being judged by family or
it's huge.
or by
It is
church.
very huge. It is very huge.
The fear of being judged.
It's driving her straight to that abortion clinic.
Wow.
Yep. And we see that over and over again. We've had young women come in where, you know, their families are in ministry, and they've made a mistake. and they feel like they have to hide this mistake,
Yep.
and they have to get rid of it quickly. But you know, it really is an amazing thing to be able to sit beside them and just say, you know what, your parents are going to be disappointed, but you know what, God has you. He has a plan for you, and this is a life with a little spark. Oh, you know, this is
That's
life.
incredible.
This is an eternal being right now, and you know this in your heart. And then also be able to meet their needs with that information, you know, is huge. So it's important to be able to lay things out so they can make that decision.
Yes.
So,
You know, so much of ministry is about saving souls, lost
Yes.
souls, you know what I
Yes.
mean? But what a ministry this is, because you're literally saving a human life. When you talked about that we're all created in the image of God, I believe that happens at conception.
yes.
That spark of light that
That
just
spark of light.
reaffirms what I've always
Yes.
tenaciously believed and held
Yes.
on to. No, life begins at conception, and we know that there's a huge battle going on in our country over this very issue. But if you're watching this program, there must be something in you. You either attend church or you are a believer. And again, I just ask you to let this message today, all that's being shared, make an appeal to your heart. You have 5 different locations, and you have a mobile unit, which I know you're going to talk about the
Yes,
mobile
yes.
unit very soon. But you operate probably, what percentage of your people involved with you are volunteers?
It is probably 80%.
80%?
Yeah,
It is high.
very high, very high. And we have volunteers who dedicate just, you know, to pray and to be there.
Yep.
It's amazing how just, you know, we're so volunteer driven in that. So,
And that's with the volunteers, we're able to keep our costs down.
yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Because, you know, they have given financially, think of how much it would cost to actually employ that many people. And
Yeah.
because our services are free to the clients,
Yes.
we have to be stretch that donor dollar, that sacrificial dollar that people are sending in, or the time that they're spending volunteering. We
Yes.
don't want it to waste a single moment of that. And
Sure.
so we are so thankful for people who volunteer as well as get behind us in other ways.
Well, and what we've done is we've created this very lean, we call it a lean baby saving machine. It is our satellite clinic. So our satellite clinic in Ames. So we do all of our fundraising from the corporate center in Iowa City. But so all of that cost is frayed from Ames. And so the neat thing is because we're already doing it anyway. We're already out talking, so we might as well do this.
Yep.
And so it only costs about $160,000 a year to run that clinic, and to run a free medical clinic that sees literally, and we're seeing around 100 clients a month.
My goodness.
And so that's pretty incredible. I'm very proud of the staff. I mean, they work very well with high level of not only integrity but efficiency, to be able to use every last one
This
of
is
those.
in Ames you're talking
Well,
about.
this is in Ames. This is across the whole
Yes.
board.
Yep.
All of our satellite clinics are set up that way. We have
Yes.
one nurse manager that's paid, and the rest are volunteer. And so we're able to really do a lot with a little.
Isn't
So
that
and save a
amazing?
lot of little lives that way. God is good.
Isn't that
That is,
amazing?
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
You know, I believe that God puts it into every, you know, the moment that Jesus came into my life, and he had waited a long time on me to be ready to receive him. But from the moment he came into my life, I wanted to give something back. Because he had so wonderfully changed my life, and I wanted to give something back. And so again, I'm making this appeal to you. And Suzi is the person that handles the volunteers. And so the contact information will be on this screen throughout the interview. But I'm just encouraging you, don't you have that something in your heart that's, you know, this means something to you, that saving the life of a child, of an unborn child, is important to you, and to realize that there's something that maybe you could do as a volunteer. You could not only pray or give, but you could actually go, you could volunteer your time if you live anywhere close to any one of these 5 locations that
Yeah.
we've talked about.
We'd love to have you on the team.
Yeah.
We would love to have you on the team. So,
Your mobile unit,
Yes.
You have one so far?
Yeah, we have one mobile clinic.
I've been in it. It's incredible.
It is a beautiful piece of equipment. It is just very gorgeous. We're the heart behind it is, again, in everything that we do, is to love and to lavish. You know,
Yep.
and when you get on this mobile clinic, it feels very lavished. You know, we want these young women to know that they're valuable, because if they don't know they're valuable, they don't know the life inside of them is valuable.
Right.
And a lot of women that are caught in a situation really truly don't know how amazing they are. They don't know that God created them in His image, and that there's just this amazing potential and beauty in there. And so that's a huge part of what we do. And actually, our mobile clinic that we have now is named Charlie. His name is Charlie, and he's named after a gentleman who used to pray out in front of Planned Parenthood in Iowa City on Abortion Day. And the women would come up, and he would tell them that they were beautiful, that their child was beautiful, and ask them if they would like to see their baby on an ultrasound before they had that abortion. And they would come. He would bring them. Sometimes they would get in the car with him. I don't know why, but he was a grandpa kind of guy. He had silver hair.
me.
Yeah. He had that sweet demeanor. And so they would come over, and he would bring them over to our clinic, and we would show them the baby on the ultrasound, and together we saved lots of babies, and lots of heartache. You know, it's just honestly, it's more than just that baby's life. I know that baby's life is a gift, and it's beautiful, but saving the mom from the pain of abortion is huge. You know, it really is. And so that it's a whole package there. And so together we saved lots of babies. And the neat thing is, you know, when he went to go be with the Lord, which I know he's just praising the Lord right now, and with the Lord right now, we were able to get our mobile clinic, and his name is Charlie too. So,
Isn't that something?
so when I talk about him affectionately, people are like, why do you talk about him like he's a person? Because Charlie is a person to me. So anyways, but our mobile clinic will be able to be on community college campuses, and being out and about in the community, and also in front of abortion clinics right before those women make that decision. The neat thing about what we are doing here at Informed Choices is we see that we need to be effective and efficient, and it's all about branding. It really is. Branding. You know, to be in competition with our Planned Parenthoods and with the abortion clinics. They're really our competition, and they have an incredible name. It is everywhere. You know, a young person who is in high school, and they may, you know, let's say his girlfriend is pregnant, and he doesn't know, you know, what to do, but the first thing that pops to his mind is Planned Parenthood. He's going to take her to Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood is in the schools. Planned Parenthood is on every campus. It's on, you know, a lot of our communities, and so they have this branding across the state, and that's what we're trying to do that's different here at Informed Choices. We're trying to create a brand, because 50% of the kids in the state of Iowa are college students, right? That our abortions are performed on, and so if we have that same level of competition and branding, we're going to see more of them. So that you know, if they're in Fort Dodge, and let's say because we have a clinic in Fort Dodge, and that's the second largest community college in the state. Let's say they end up at the University of Iowa to finish up their 4-year degree. Well, they know that there was an Informed Choices there because they saw the advertising there, but they're going to know there's an Informed Choices in Iowa City, and this branding thing takes place. And so we really need to be in competition. We need to be not only effective with the gifts that are given to us and the donor sacrifice, you know, to give to us, but we need to be wise as serpents and gentle as a dove.
Yes. Now we're already over our halfway mark. Do you want to just keep going? We're in a good flow here.
Okay, we can. Yep,
We can
we
just
can.
keep going. We were going to break just so you understand what we're talking about here. But in order for people to even know that these services are available, this again is where your work comes in, Susie. How do you get the information out to college campuses? How do they know that you're there?
Yeah. Well, in our advertising, we focus on the 18 to 24-year-old, and so we're going to use platforms that they are on, their cell phones, Facebook, having apps that
Really?
that come up whenever they're on their phone, and that our services are before them. We use a lot of different advertising through the campus models. Whatever we can, we're going to put it in front of them. So we've had an aggressive campaign to target that, because as Rachel said, you know, over 50% of the abortions are performed on college students here in the state of Iowa. And so we want to always be before them. She talked about branding. We want them to see that Informed Choices ad wherever they can. And so we have a lot of students that come in that found us through our Google website, or, you know, on an app that popped up onto their phone, or different modes like that. And we want to use what they're using.
Use that social media,
we
right?
can.
Use what they're on.
Absolutely.
We need to be relevant, and that's one of our core strengths. Is we want to be relevant. You know, we want to go forward with efficiency and relevancy, because we need to be able to speak to them where they're at, and then to speak with them with the love of Christ is where it comes in. You have to be able to meet them where they're at, and we do have a very strategic. A lot of people ask the question, well, how do they come in? If a girl is abortion minded, why would she come to you? Well, it has everything to do with our advertising because of Informed Choices. You know, we pose that question, would you like more information? Do you need more information? And so we're talking about their need. And so if we go back to the fact that, you know, 95% of the women wish they would have had more information,
Right.
We know that's what's on their mind. They want more information, and they're seeking it out. And so we're providing that through our advertising. It's pretty powerful.
In your booklet here, it says there are 67 community colleges and universities across Iowa.
Yes.
And Informed Choices needs to be there.
Yes.
Do you, Susie, do you have people that, I mean, do you reach out to these community colleges and universities to have a person there on the campus, like maybe the campus counselor? Most major colleges have a counselor. I mean, do you find that they're willing to work with you if somebody comes to them? And
We have had different people who work with student health, which is always on the campuses, that they have referred to us. And so whenever we can make a relationship with someone such as that will get that information to them, yes. If not, we have volunteers or people who are pro-life in the community through medical doctors and nurses in the community that will refer to us, who maybe see that that they have a lot of college students coming in. And so we have a lot of connections with people who will get the word out to those college students. But anytime we can work, you know, if that college or university will allow us, we want to be able to have our information there that they can send us that client. So it's
So one way that our future vision is to have a mobile medical clinic do rotations throughout and have the state divided up into sections so that mobile medical clinics can make rotations and have a presence on each of those campuses at least sometime throughout the week, throughout the month, and so that we can get the name out there. And it's all about that branding. The branding.
Like that,
it's about getting the information out there. And again, in the churches and on the campuses is what we're really looking at. So,
you know,
and go ahead. I was just gonna.
I was thinking maybe we should have covered this in the earlier part of the interview. I just now thought about this. Is that, you know, when a young lady finds out that she's pregnant, and the first thought is gotta. This is not good. I gotta get.
Yeah.
But what are some of the use side effects or consequences, emotionally, psychologically, relationally, with having an abortion?
There are a lot, you know, and we there is, you know, just for one instance, 60% of relationships that have an abortion in it end. That's huge, right there. It's a huge statistic, and we have a just a brochure that we go over with the young women, the nurses do, on just what are those emotional, physical side effects, and you know the chances of, you know, having some infertility issues in the future. You know, that's more of a physical one. The emotional side effects are, you know, that the suicide attempts go up with women who have had abortions in the past. And so just walking them through that is really important. You know, Roland, it's actually, the statistics are overwhelming in our country right now. 43% of all women, by the time they're 45, will have experienced some type of an abortion. So when we're out being our pro-life self and talking about, you know, that life is valuable and precious and a gift and there's a spark, we also need to remember that there's a lot of women that just the word abortion or pro-life is like salt in their wound. And that wound and that hurt can drive them from the Lord. And it can drive them to the other side. And so we need to be gentle, and we need to just, you know, introduce them to the healing balm of Jesus Christ, and introduce them to the fact that there isn't anything. If you've experienced an abortion in your life, there isn't anything that can keep you from the love of Christ. He loves you. He cares about you. He has your future in his hands, and he wants nothing more than to have fellowship with you right now. Right now, Roland, right now.
Right now.
And so there is, we have a post-abortion recovery program, like I had mentioned earlier, Bible study, support group. God just, I truly believe with all my heart, I have seen this over and over again in this ministry, that God takes what the devil meant to destroy us, to just destroy our lives and our future. And he can take that, because he's God and he can do all things. He can take that one thing and he can turn it into good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so I just want to encourage anyone listening today that God loves you. And he wants to take this, and all you have to do is give it to him. You give it to him, and he can take this past abortion in your past, and he can he can do some mighty, mighty things. All you have to do is hand it to him. So God is good.
Rachel, I appreciate you sharing it, because I just had a conversation with a young woman, and I don't want to give too much information about her, because I wouldn't want her to know that I was referring to her in this, but she mentioned, just casually, she just blew over it, like, yeah, I made a mistake, I had an abortion, I hadn't done that, blah, blah, blah. And she went on, and I could tell instantly that she has a remorse. And she's never really opened up to anybody to tell them how she feels about what she had done.
Well, and one thing that, you know, if you're in a situation and somebody says that to you, one thing that is so valuable is because they don't tell that to just anyone. No one knows that, probably. And you know what you can say, and this is really, really, really important, just to say, thank you for sharing that with me. I know that might have been hard, because women don't share that. They hide that and they don't share that. But when they do share it, they need you to recognize it, and they need you to love on them. So
I'm glad I had you share on that, because you know, maybe some of the people watching the program, maybe they've had children who've had abortions.
Oh yeah.
And even the parents of those children are, you know, just. But anyway, you want to move on to another service that you provide. So you provide the free counseling services. You provide medical services. You have many volunteers. You do. You have programs, even including Bible studies that people can come to. For that continual ongoing support. And you utilize churches and members of churches as volunteers to make all this work. And it's really about healing people's lives, helping people to get on their feet again, or whatever, or get through the situation that they're in. But you also approach this, you have what's called an abstinence program, where you, in the schools where you're allowed to go in, you go in and talk about this. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we'll send our nurses in, because we are a medical clinic. We can send our nurses into the schools to talk about the risks of having more than one partner. Right now, that's a huge thing in our country. A lot of people don't realize that it is out of control. You, right now, your risk of, and this is from the CDC, this is the information they give, your risk if you have more than one partner is around, it's upwards of 98% a chance of getting some type of an STD. 98 to 100, depending on you. So there is, because of the STDs that are out there, they're really everywhere. And so one part of our ministry that is really key and it's really important, and that is the STD testing and diagnosis and treatment that we do. So it's about 70% of what we do. So we do advertising on campus. Did you know that Iowa City has is #2 per capita for STDs in the country?
I did hear that.
On college students, or with college students, and then the only one that beats us out is Arizona right now. And so it's not because it's too cold in the wintertime. It just So there's a lot of STDs in our college communities in Iowa, and so we look at it as a huge opportunity to be able to minister. And what we do is we do free STD testing, and like I said, and diagnosis and treatment. What they do is they come in and let's say young man or young woman thinks that they might have an STD. They're very frightened. They're scared. This can be a life-changing thing for them, and they get to sit down with one of our nurses for a half an hour, 45 minutes, and she goes through all the risks and the side effects of having more than one partner, and just really walks them through and asks and answers. They get to ask anything, and she answers any questions that they might have. And so it's very powerful, isn't it, Susie?
It is. I have had the privilege of sitting in on those, and it opens up a door to actually talking about their life choices and what they can do to change those life choices. And the nurses are able to have a spiritual discussion with them about how, that worldview can impact their choices. And it is we don't go in hard on that. We ask their permission to see would you like to have a spiritual conversation. But in that moment, we're going to let them know what God's best plan for their life is. And we always have a prayer time with them, and they're in a vulnerable spot. And when we can go in with gentleness and love and speak the truth of the impact of these choices in a factual medical way, it is a powerful tool that we can use to be truth in their lives at that given moment.
You said this is about 70% of what you do is more in this arena than in helping young women who have found out that they are pregnant. So this is when you say medical clinic, you really are.
Yes, we are a medical clinic, and the reason why it's 70% is because you're 3 times more likely to get an STD than you are to get pregnant if you have sex out of wedlock or without any or more than one partner kind of thing. So that's right.
I noticed on your list here you got cervical cancer screening also.
Yep. We do the cervical cancer screening also. Yeah, and then we have our heart is to do that early prenatal care. And then get them referred into a physician as soon as possible. And so just to make sure that everything is as healthy and right. That's another way how we advertise. You need to know if this pregnancy is viable or if it's going to go to term. You need to know if you have an STD because they, travel together sometime for a healthy future, for a healthy reproductive future. You need to know, especially if you think you might be pregnant. So that's a huge part of what we do at Informed Choices.
And one of the things that we accomplished just last year was going through an accreditation process of a third-party accrediting firm that works with ambulatory care centers, and it is the highest standard that we can achieve in this arena. And so we went through just a great sifting through and making sure that all of our procedures, all of our processes, the way we report, the way we have client care, that they are top notch. And we wanted to achieve that accreditation because we want to compete in those communities that have a university hospital or they have clinics or student health or Planned Parenthood. We want to compete on a medical basis and say, so that we can say we are doing our excellent best in client care. And so that was a very rigorous time we had together.
Yes.
Another part of
Yes.
your branding, though, is to get that accreditation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That recognition of being accredited and recognized as being top-notch
Yes.
and doing everything with excellence and
Yeah.
being known for that, I think is very, very important.
Yes.
We have about 8 minutes left, so I'm going to turn it back to you, Rachel. Any subjects or parts of this, that what you do that we have not covered yet?
You know, I think just emphasizing the fact that, you know, everything that we do has purpose. You know, there's a reason why when you walk into the waiting room that it's purple. There's a reason why it has a medical spa feel. This is purple. There's this happens to be the color of this particular generation that we're ministering to right now.
I didn't know that.
So everything has been thought out because it's called a linear service. So we're going into this with an end in mind. So we're not just going in kind of globally, what's going to happen today. We go in with an end in mind. That's why we use the Ottawa Decision Guide. That's why we do the counseling for the STDs the particular way that we do it. You know, providing all the information and then doing the testing. It's why you know, why we offer them drink when they come in the door, or different varieties of drinks. It's why we have different types of chocolate everywhere. The clinic has little bowls of chocolate everywhere because actually just looking at chocolate makes increases.
This time I'm in Iowa City.
Just looking at chocolate can increase your mood. So, but everything that we do has a purpose behind it, and it's because the end is to empower them. You know, our tagline is strength for life's tough choices. We really want to provide strength. And where do we get our strength, Roland? I mean, we get our strength from Jesus Christ.
Fellowship with God.
Yes, and so we want to, they're in the middle of a really tough choice, and they know they are. Whether it's choosing, or they're on a path that they know, they have had several partners. Actually, you know, in Iowa City, the university, the students there have an average of 3 to 4 partners a year. So by the time they graduate, they've had 15 partners, they've been exposed to everything. Do they want to continue on that path? You know, do they want to go on that path still, or do they want to choose a healthier path for their life? Or do they want to carry this child to term and to give another human being the gift of life?
Yes.
You know, and so what we want to do is just help them through this process and give them the strength to not only help them set the fears aside and not focus on the negative, but focus on the potential of their life and the life that is inside of their womb. And that is really the core of everything that we do at Informed Choices. It's the culture we're trying to build within, and it's the culture we want to ooze out in and across the state. I truly, truly feel, folks, that right now, if we keep moving on this 2020 vision that we have, which is in the next 5 years to have 1 mobile clinic and 1 brick and mortar clinic each year, if we keep moving forward on that path, there's going to not only be a huge reduction in abortion in the state of Iowa, like we may not have any abortion clinics because the competition is gone, because there's no need. What we have done is we've reduced the demand by just meeting the needs of these women. And so there's going to be no abortion clinics here. This is where I'm firmly standing on. This is our vision and our heart for the future of Iowa, is to provide these needs one precious girl at a time. And as we're doing that one girl at a time, we are covering our state with a culture of life. The neat thing is, Roland, if we do this and do this strategically, we've already seen the fruit from this. We really, really have. When we started, there was, this was 8-9 years ago, there was 6,860 some abortions in the state of Iowa. Right now, today, that's per year. Right now, today, there's only 4,000 per year. So we have seen the rates drop. And we have seen, because Iowa City was where a good majority of those were happening. You know, there was over 3,000 happening at that time. So we've been ministering in Iowa City, we've been working in Iowa City, and for each child that is saved, I can tell you personally, it affects so many people. Their whole family is affected. You know, their whole family. I love to tell the story of this one girl. She just is this beautiful woman, grew up in the church, loved the Lord, you know, was saved when she was 8 years old, and she was married and was still working on her master's degree, and they had an unplanned pregnancy. And she came into the clinic and she wanted to have an abortion. She said, you know, I really think that I need to have an abortion, but first I need to find out if I'm really pregnant, and I would like to talk to one of the nurses here first to know what my risks are. And so we went through that whole process. And she saw her baby on the ultrasound machine. She saw that little heartbeat, lub, you know, and honestly, they can see that very early. They have just when they just discovered they might be pregnant, when they missed their first cycle, there's already a heartbeat.
Sure.
And so she came in and we saw that baby, and she decided to carry. And today, she is this incredible rock star mama. She is
The mama is.
the mama is. She's this incredible rock star mama. She's got two beautiful daughters, and she just emailed me and told me about how she just led two other mothers to the Lord this last week. So it affects so many. And if she would have had that abortion, we don't know where her life would be at this point. You know.
That's something.
Yeah.
We have about 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask Suzi to make your appeal to those that are viewing, how they can make the connection between this interview that they're watching and their pastors, for example. You know, what they can maybe can do personally to get involved in this and support this, or at least take this information to their pastors and how they could, as a church, then get connected with the clinic.
Yes. One of the things that you can talk to the pastors about is the need for us to, in the congregation, to be able to get behind, just be more active in their communities about the pro-life organizations, but to get behind them financially, get behind them in volunteers, prayer. We need prayer. We need people who are willing to mentor. You know, the national average of saving the life of a baby for a lot of pregnancy resource centers or other is about $1,200, but because of our satellite clinics and keeping that lower overhead costs down, we have gotten it down to just about $600. And so $600 can save a life. You can go to your pastor and say, we would like to be able to save a life or 2 or 3 because of our church, or you can do that personally. So you go to informedchoiceia.org and you can donate from there. You can download a volunteer application, get in contact with me so we can talk about how to bring that to your church. Thank you.
Well, Suzi and Rachel, thank you both for being on the program. And I want you to consider coming back someday and bringing a couple of these moms with you.
Oh,
Let
we'd
them
love that.
give their testimony.
We would love
That would be great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Thank you for staying tuned today. God bless you. Stay tuned for the next program coming up in next week. Bye-bye.